Okay, so I don't know about you, but I love Punjabi movies, I love Punjabi songs, rap, and jokes. Humor just hits different in Punjabi, right? And it's such a beautiful language, but something very horrible is happening to it. And linguists describe this process as the intellectual death of a language. And we've already heard about endangered languages and languages that are dying off, but those languages are usually spoken by a minority in a region or a country, right? But the case of the Punjabi language is different. Now, before I tell you how, you tell me where in the world are the most Punjabi speakers in terms of numbers? Go on, take your best guess down in the comments. Tell me right now, where do you think are the most Punjabi speakers in the world? Which country? Okay, so now let me give you the answer. It's Pakistan. According to the 2017 census, 80.55 million people in Pakistan are native speakers of Punjabi. This is about 39% of the total population of Pakistan, making this a majority language in Pakistan. Now, India follows close behind with 30 million speakers of Punjabi, but in terms of the percentage of the total Indian population, it's a very small percentage, somewhere near 2%. So, in India, Punjabi is definitely a minority language. So, the issue we're going to talk about today is more closely linked with Pakistan because it's here that we have the most Punjabi speakers in the world, and it's here that the majority language is Punjabi. And it's also here that the problem stems. Hi, my name is Misha and welcome to Tarikhi Tales. So, like, share, subscribe, and you can help support this channel by going down below on the link to my Patreon. It's in the description box. Now, in today's Pakistan, the Punjabi speaking community is anything but a disadvantaged ethnic group. And they are an ethnic group because they have a shared territory, history, geography, and cultural roots. When a group of people has all of this combined, it turns into an ethnicity. And this ethnicity in Pakistan is highly privileged because you see, there exists a very influential class of Punjabi landlords. Then it also has the largest educated middle class, which then transforms into the largest number of white-collar jobs in Pakistan. You can also see their presence in the civil and the military service. And all of this combined together in the eyes of the locals and in the eyes of political analysts makes the Punjabi group in Pakistan a very privileged group. But here's where the problem starts. Now, let's have a look at the numbers. In the year 1981, Punjabi speakers formed almost 48% of the total population of Pakistan. In the year 1998, the number went down to 44%. And as I mentioned, in 2017, the number further sits at 39%. So what we're seeing is basically a drop in the number of native Punjabi speakers in Pakistan. Now, you may think, well, maybe there's a population change or demographic change, and that's why there's this drop. But look at this graph by the World Bank database, and it shows that population in Pakistan has basically skyrocketed and increased, and so is the case with Punjab. The drop can also not be counted by migration out of the country. Then the question is, what's happening to the Punjabi speakers? Where are they going, right? Now, to figure that out, there are a couple of studies that have been done in Pakistan. In 2002, a sociological research was undertaken in Lahore. The study involved interviewing different people, especially students, as I mentioned, primarily based in Lahore. The results of the study found that a significant number of Punjabi students actually identified themselves as speakers of Urdu. They felt embarrassed to call themselves Punjabi speakers, and according to them, Punjabi was kind of basically only used for gossip, jokes, and humor. Now, that study was from 2002, but a more recent study took place in 2021. And this study was done in Islamabad. It was performed on students from the age of 18 to 22 and from different universities. This study was a phenomenological study. Basically, they're trying to get to the phenomena of why people are thinking this way. So this one gives us some different insights. The students selected were all from Punjabi background, and the interviews were kind of conducted in a very informal way with open-ended questions. And in some experiences, they tried to also get the lived experience of the speaker and went further and interviewed their families as well to kind of understand the situation was. The result of this study was also that a lot of Punjabi speakers actually disassociate themselves from the language. And these were the top reasons why. So number one, peer pressure. A lot of kids who initially spoke Punjabi kind of stopped speaking it intentionally when somebody among their peers made fun of them for speaking Punjabi. That kind of triggered this response of disassociating with the language. Now, the second reason is the denial of their Punjabi identity. Basically, a lot of students kind of refuse to be associated with the language because they think they're part of a self-proclaimed group of elite people within Pakistan who speak either Urdu or English. And those are considered more prestigious languages, and they themselves kind of ridicule the language of Punjabi. Now, obviously, it's not everybody in the group, and this is not what everybody thinks. These are some people, okay? The third reason is the intergenerational transmission of stereotypes. This is something that I feel like a lot of people can relate to, that their adults, their parents themselves kind of never pass down the language to their children. They themselves think that learning Punjabi or speaking Punjabi will kind of harm these kids in the future because Urdu and English are the languages that are more sought after. Hence, they discourage Punjabi from the very get-go. So children are kind of never taught Punjabi. The adults can speak them among themselves, but they never teach the children. I would like to say I myself am a victim to this method. Number 4, abhorring the language. It kind of means like they hate the language, because a lot of speakers gave these remarks in interviews that, well, it's not a good language. It's not a very formal language or a very sophisticated language. But one thing to note is that there were a number of people in this study that also said the opposite. They did agree that Punjabi is a beautiful language and people should be learning it and it should be taught more widely and we should be more accepting of it. But obviously those people were a minority. A lot of the people disassociated with it. Number 5, status of Punjabi according to geographical location. Now, what this means is that some students gave this weird answer that, well, they don't speak Punjabi in Islamabad because the study is done in Islamabad. And they mentioned that they feel conscious speaking in Punjabi over here, but when they visit their villages or their gaons, that's where they go and they speak Punjabi and they speak it fluently. So for them, it depends on where they are. Number 6, a humor-inducing tool. A lot of people found that Punjabi is kind of only good for inducing humor into conversations. Nothing more. Number 7, language use in the media. Now, this comes back to number 6 as well, because the way that people see Punjabi language used in mass media in Pakistan today is that it's only used for humor. You don't see it in any intellectual discourse or in any real conversation. Now, even shows that a lot of people mention some important shows that people watch in Pakistan, which include shows like Khabarnak, Hasbe Hal, Muzakrat. Now, interestingly enough, in these shows, the host himself is basically talking in Urdu and he's giving all these intellectual lessons and everything in Urdu. But when they want to induce some comedy into the show, there's a separate group of people that is doing that in Punjabi. And that is kind of the only interaction people are having with this language. There are very few cases of Punjabi being used in mass media in Pakistan other than these. So number 8 is code switching with the younger generation. This ties into an earlier point where they transmit their stereotypes to children, right? And in this one, it said that a lot of the students remarked that they don't really know how to speak proper Punjabi because they're adults, they speak Punjabi among themselves. But whenever they conversate with a kid, they switch languages. And for this study, because they also wanted to look at their actual environments and their comfort zones, right? So they left recorders in the houses of these people with their consent, and they noted that a lot of times adults would be speaking in Punjabi to each other, and the moment they'd be talking to a child, they would switch to either English or Urdu. And that is one of the reasons why the younger generation doesn't know Punjabi. Number 9, diminishing Punjabi lexicon. Now, this is something that the study noted through their recordings, that a lot of people, because of lack of use of Punjabi, a lot of words are kind of forgotten and they're replaced with words of English or Urdu. So whenever somebody's saying a sentence and a word comes up that they can't think of in Punjabi, then they switch to English or Urdu. And here's a list of the words that they found during their study to be a part of this issue. So I'll put it up here. So in language studies, it's usually the women that kind of preserve the language because they teach it to the children. Research has found that they hold the language more dear to them. But in the case of Punjabi, this study found that some female students that they had picked out to kind of interview outright refused the interview because they did not even want to be associated with a Punjabi background. They would rather be known as English or Urdu speakers. Some experts describe the situation as symbolic self-violence because the speakers actually believe the dominance of Urdu and English, thus they think and act in their own best interest to kind of associate with only Urdu or English. Now we figured out that there's a problem, clearly. But the question is, why? Why is this the outlook that people have towards Punjabi in Pakistan? It's actually starkly different from what's going on in India, but that's out of the scope of this video, so I'm not going to touch about it more. Well, let's look at some of the reasons as to why in this day and age, this is the prevailing mindset. The first reason is the government. Now consider this. The mother tongue of this privileged and numerically dominant group of people has no institutional support in Pakistan whatsoever. All cultural, intellectual, and professional activity of the country and the community is done in either English or Urdu. Punjabi is completely absent from the official sphere. Let's look at schools. In the year 2002, there were 36,750 Sindhi medium schools in Sindh and 10,731 Pashto medium schools in NWFP, which is now KPK. Both of the languages were also taught as compulsory subjects in all of their schools. And in the same year, there were no Punjabi medium schools at all, and Punjabi was not taught in any of the schools in Punjab. In fact, all the schools in Punjab were either Urdu or English medium. And it's not like people haven't figured this problem out before. There have been times that people have fought for the Punjabi language. For example, in 1951, the Pak Punjabi League demanded that Punjabi be taught in schools and universities from primary to MA, which is masters. But despite all their protest and all their hard work, the government did not budge from its position, and Punjabi was only allowed as an optional subject at the postgraduate level in Punjab University. And there are other occasions where pro-Punjabi groups such as the Punjabi Majlis and the Punjabi group of writers, they intensively campaigned for the use of Punjabi in schools, in governments, and in the public sphere, but to no avail. Nothing was changed. It's actually only this year, in 2024, that very recently, that a decision has been taken to teach Punjabi in schools across Punjab. Now, a second reason why the language is kind of dying intellectually and that there's this narrative that is built around this language, and that is based around religious identity. Now, this reasoning obviously stems from history. It's not something very recent. This has been brewing for a couple of 100 years now. But in more recent history, right at the end of the British Raj, because there were so many tensions that were brewing between the Hindus, the Muslims, and the Sikhs, and I have to say that a lot of these tensions were kind of inflamed and given air to by the British because it suited their benefit, right? So there was this idea that Urdu is the language of the Muslims and it's linked to Islam. And Hindi obviously belonged to the Hindus, and then that Punjabi belongs to the Sikh community. And this idea has kind of slowly become more ingrained within the society. And this actually is one of the reasons that linguists have found that a lot of people in Pakistan kind of, when they rally against Punjabi, this is one of the reasons that they use. But in reality, Punjabi language has been existing in this area for a very long time. No, not in the form that we know of it today. It's obviously evolved over time. But associating languages to religions is a very social construct and not an actual part of any of those religions. Sikhism is closely tied to Punjabi, but that does not exclude Punjabi from use for these other religions. Now another reason why Urdu was preferred was, number 3, again, history. People were used to it because it was also the official language of British India. So that kind of carried forward into Pakistan. But obviously it wasn't that simple. After the creation of Pakistan in 1947, one very popular slogan was "One nation, one religion, one language, one state." But when Pakistan was first formed, it was formed in 2 parts. It had East Pakistan and West Pakistan. East Pakistan was later separated and became Bangladesh. The population of West Pakistan included several ethnic groups. The Punjabis, which were 67%, Sindhis, 12.85%, Pathans, which were Pashto speakers, 8.16%, Mohajirs, which were Urdu speakers, were only 7%, Balochis were 3%, and then there were other diverse groups which were lesser in percentage. Now, East Pakistan was mainly populated by Bengalis, who constituted the majority not only in East Pakistan but also in the entirety of Pakistan. They accounted for 55.6% of the population and they spoke the language Bengali. According to demographic principle, it could have been Bengali that became the national language. Right? However, in 1947, at the creation of Pakistan, it was Urdu that was kind of picked to be the national language, which was only the language of about 7% of the population. But that 7% of the population included a lot of educated elites who kind of rallied for the language. And they also thought that making this language which belongs to a small minority will kind of stop the dominant language of Bengali and then Punjabi kind of taking the limelight and maybe taking more rights than other ethnic groups. So this was kind of the thought process. But what's interesting is the reaction that all of these different ethnic groups gave to this decision. The Bengalis, united by their common language and culture, launched a campaign against Urdu, but the government suppressed it. Now, Sindh was another region where Urdu kind of faced a lot of backlash by the local bureaucrats and the intellectuals. There were also language riots in Sindh against Urdu in 1971 and 1972. Now, Brahvi in Balochistan, Pashto in KPK, and Saraiki in southwestern Punjab kind of remained markers of self-identification, but all of these groups of people easily embraced Urdu. But in the case of the Punjabis, they actually formed a coalition with the Mohajirs and actively campaigned for Urdu, which is kind of a very different reaction than all the other languages. There are obviously some Punjabi voices that went against the tide and kind of did not support Urdu, but the majority of Punjabi speakers did. Now, another factor is politics. And this thing kind of ties in with all the points I've mentioned above because that ties in with the government and with the religious sentiments. In the course of Pakistan's modern history, any kind of internal opposition has kind of been put down in the name of Islam and in the name of national security. When martial law was imposed by General Ayub Khan in 1958 and also again in the time of Zia in 1977. Any leader of the indigenous language movements during those two time periods were kind of portrayed as anti-state criminals. It was during periods of short democratic rules, for example, that of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and maybe even now, democratic, where people have been kind of allowed to learn Punjabi and kind of teach Punjabi, and other things like Punjabi cultural programs and all of those things were kind of encouraged in those short democratically ruled times as compared to the martial law times in Pakistan. Now here's a twist in the story. Now a lot of the studies that are done on the Punjabi speakers kind of also talk about this paradox that anybody who speaks Punjabi is automatically labeled a Pendu, which is basically a term used for like a village joker. So it's a kind of a derogatory term in itself, and then adding that towards the language thing is double the problem, obviously. A lot of the studies found that schools across Punjab heavily discouraged the use of Punjabi and in a lot of times kind of penalized students for speaking Punjabi as well and ashamed them. So within all of this shame and ridicule that is kind of linked to being a Punjabi speaker, there is one group of people in Pakistan that speak Punjabi freely, fluently, and unashamed. And this group is the intellectual elite of Pakistan, which basically includes people like professors and lecturers and well-educated bureaucrats or highly placed officers. And the reason that a lot of studies found that they're able to do this is because their social positions are already of such prestige that the term of being a village joker or being a Pendu cannot be associated to them. They encourage the use of Punjabi and understand the importance of speaking and keeping the language alive, which is a paradox with the rest of the country, where if you're from a lower income background and you're associating with Punjabi language, you are given certain stigmas in society. Now, this was me kind of trying to pinpoint a problem that is arising within the society that has been arising for a lot of years now. And the first step towards fixing anything is understanding the problem. I myself am a victim to a lot of the issues that I've mentioned in the video, and it's only as an adult that I realized that every language needs to be preserved. Even if English or Urdu are the languages of the state, Punjabi needs to be preserved by the speakers themselves, because not only if we lose the language, we lose a lot of culture and history, but we also lose a lot of knowledge that is hidden in that language. People in Pakistan are unable to read or write Punjabi in most cases. Hopefully that will change when now Punjabi will be taught in schools. And there are a lot of other ways that languages can make a comeback. A very good example is the language of Hebrew. That language has died more than 2000 years ago, and it was revived very recently in the previous century by the Jewish speakers of the Yiddish, Ladino, and other such languages. They made a conscious effort to bring Hebrew back, and they were able to do that. So it's not a lost case. If we understand the problem and understand that valuing ourselves, our identity, is something that is very important and something that will make a mark on the world, then maybe we can stop this problem here and move towards a solution. So make sure to share this with anybody you think faces this problem. And that's it for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.